All right. Greetings. Welcome back to Black Bear News. Welcome back to Black Bear News, where everything is connected. Anyways, greetings. Hello, people. We're live on YouTube, Rockfin, and on Twitter. And, Twitter people, can you please chat? There's a chat box next to the thing. Just say hello. It's really not that hard. It is very easy. Just go to the thing and go to the thing. Press the video and leave a comment. Just say hi. I'm watching on Twitter. I want to know that these Twitter watchers are actually real. But how y'all doing? What is up? Let's see. Thanks y'all for hanging out. So yeah, calling is over. There's no more calling platform, so don't know what to tell you there. Will there be a replacement? I don't know. Did nobody get a... I mean, I think I made it pretty clear that the show starts at 11 now. But I don't know if nobody got a notification from YouTube, or I don't know. Who knows? Maybe it's spring and everybody's frolicking in the gardens of their love. Which I hope that's what you're doing. I want to frolic in the gardens of my love. Or in the sunshine of my love. Whatever. I think I'm screwing up some music lyrics, but whatever. It's all good. Why no more calling? Because calling is... the platform no longer exists. It was sucked up by Rumble. Rumble bought Colin, and Colin went away. You got a notification 4 minutes ago? That's interesting because I put the video up like a long time ago. Anyways. Yeah. You know, it's pretty expected. Pretty typical. I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised. All right. Well, let's go ahead and talk about some stuff because it's already kind of getting late. I have a limited amount of time in my day to hang out with y'all, though I would love to hang out longer. Everyday life stuff does not permit me. It's weird though because I'm used to doing call-ins, so um, it's kind of a like a habit to set my call-in up. I went to go set up call-in today, and I was like, no, no call-in, no, no call-in. All right. Well, so some people got notifications. Very good. And anyways, hope y'all are doing well. It's a fine spring day here. Fine. It's fine. Desperate times will create desperate situations for all species. Researchers raise concern after observing catastrophic behavior of grizzly bears, dramatic escalation in the numbers of bears dying. Why? Why are they dying? I can't stand. Hold on. Let me just get this story out over here. I can't stand Apple News links, people. I mean, that's just my own gripe. I know, I'm so grouchy. So grouchy and so mean. Or something. I can't stand Apple News links. I really would prefer that people don't do Apple News links. It's a little silly. But whatever. To each his own. Yeah. Yeah, Taiwan they did suffer crazy aftershocks. You're right. Or crazy earthquake. I don't know. Should we talk about that first? You want to talk about news of the day first? Before we get into this? I feel like this article might be a little bit longer. Is there where did it go? Where did it go? Anyways, yes, Taiwan had a crazy, insane, stupendous, monumentous, horrific. It's weird. There's so many insane things going on that I feel like. I mean, this happened yesterday. I feel like I'm just super desensitized to insane news, right? We had people getting sucked out of their apartment, buildings by strong winds in China. People being, flooded out, having their lives tossed upside down. Bridges collapsing, Russian terror attacks, blackmail rings by super music producers. I mean, so many things are happening. Do they? They have 6 nuclear reactors. That's insane. Well, there was obviously there was a tsunami warning, but that has since subsided. So, yeah. Taiwan was struck by its strongest earthquake in 25 years a few minutes ago when a 7.5 magnitude tremor struck the island's eastern coast, prompting tsunami warnings across the region. Here's a rooftop swimming pool leaking its water. Yikes. I mean, there's so many just insane videos. This is people driving along while this is happening. Anybody see the picture? Here's the, wow. I really love that Richard Gage. I know. Oh, this is good. This is the one I wanted to find. That's wild. Yeah. Anyways, a lot of destruction. And just a lot of crazy stuff happening all at the same time. Come on, guys. You know it was space lasers that did this. It was China sending their earthquake ray at them. Oh, what I was going to say is not funny, but Richard Gage used the images of what a localized collapse of a building actually looks like. So if you were here, I know we're getting right into this kind of stuff right in the beginning of the show. It's cool. We'll keep it moving, but I'm just going to quickly show you Richard Gage's take, which is, if you're confused about the difference between what a collapse of a building looks like and what a demolition of a building looks like, he's gonna spell it out to you. In case you were still confused about that point. I know some people don't want to understand physics when their sanity is involved, but it's okay. I understand we all need to stay sane. So this is what a collapse or a structural failure of a building looks like. Right. This is typically what, either whatever. And then this is that's what where every single column is taken out. That's not how buildings collapse, that second image, just so in case you're wondering. If you have a structural failure, this is what it looks like. Anyways, no need to relitigate all of that. But for those who are still confused about what a structural failure looks like and what a demolition looks like. But I know. If you consider that it was a demolition, then you have to consider that other things and people were involved, and that's too much for people to think about. So, very educated people will throw away their degrees and their brains in order to not understand physics. But that's fine. Totally human. It's a totally human thing to do. I don't know. If you want to know why humans won't figure out the big problems, you can go all the way back to Socrates, who exposed the hubris of many of the people that considered themselves smart, well-educated, leaders in their captains of industry and leaders in their fields. And when he exposed how little they knew, they killed him. So that's humans. In a nutshell. That's the end of the show. Bye, guys. There's nothing else to talk about. If somebody was asking me yesterday about, why are you... It's cool. But people were asking me why I was so down on solutions to climate change. I'm not down on solutions to climate change. I'm down on humans' reactions to problems. That's what I'm down on. Solutions to climate change all day. But it's how humans are actually humans humans in charge and humans everywhere know what the problem is, know what the solutions are, and just ain't going to do it until they're in too much pain, until they're in a lot of pain, and then maybe they might do it. I mean, it's kind of like now everything, everybody knows that the government is corrupt. Everybody knows that they're out of control and spiraling, everything's spiraling downward and nobody has any agency. And, the people in charge are completely out of control, committing, wars and atrocities and genocides with impunity. And everybody's just standing around going, I don't know, what should we do? Anyways. Does Donald Trump have a high IQ? I don't know. I don't know what his IQ is. I'm curious if Donald Trump has a high IQ. Anyways. I mean, it could be. But anyways, well, so that was an interesting post. I thought that was a good post by Richard Gage. I just wanted to bring that all to you. I know. It's off the beaten path. But just, I like to bring things to people to consider. And, if there's reason to consider a subject. I thought that was a great opportunity for Richard Gage to point out, this is what it looks like. This is what it looks like. It's right here. It's pretty good. Let's keep going. So yeah, crazy. A lot of damage in Taiwan. Not a large number of deaths, which is fortunate. A lot of injuries. Let's get a little more info on this. Also, the avian flu is back and rearing its beastly, ghastly head. They've we're going to talk about that in a second. Seven people. The first report was that one person had died, several injured. Obviously, it's early in the assessment period. Yeah, that's true. Let's see. 9 people killed. 900 injured. I keep seeing, I don't know if there's any veracity to the idea that China's, there's people on, I don't know. Twitter has become kind of a circus of, clickbait and shock value type posts. So there's all these, people like saying there's Chinese ships off the shore of Taiwan. They're going to strike while they're vulnerable. Okay. I don't know. I don't see any evidence of that. Real evidence of that. I mean, if somebody has real evidence, then I'm interested. But there's certain people that I see post on Twitter where I just immediately think like, okay, you're just here for the shock value and the clicks that it will bring you. And so unfortunately, when people do stuff like that, you tend to just tune them out, turn them off, maybe even mute them. What's going on? When it's all like shock value type stuff. The deniers are funny on Twitter. They are funny. I don't know, Tim Bob, which half? I'm more inclined to, the half that includes 90% of America. Which half? I don't know which one. The half not in power. The half not in power. I don't know. I think there's pretty good reason for muting the half that's in power. That's why I said I want to mute 90% of the US. And the few, the proud, the wise, maybe they could take the stage. That sounds very elitist of me. I don't know. Anyways, well, let's talk about the avian flu a little bit. I'm going to get into this other story, but everything seems to be running kind of slow right now. I think I have too many tabs open. Is the problem? Come on. Yeah, I'm not really sure. I mean, it looks like I have plenty of or enough free memory to be running things, but it's just like, is it Twitter? Is it Firefox? Is it something else? Is it my computer? Something just seems to be dragging me down. Come on. Here we go. Well, yeah, the avian flu thing is picking up steam. I mean, yeah, I've read plenty of those articles. Excuse me, I read plenty of those articles about the avian flu in other countries, especially South America, and here. But the avian flu apparently. So we're just talking about the birds, the avian flu in birds. Largest United States fresh egg producer halts production at Texas plant. Largest United States fresh egg producer halts production at Texas plant after bird flu found in chickens. Approximately 1.6 million laying hens, 3.6% of its total flock. That's only 4% of its total flock, 1.6 million hens. That is a gigantic flock. Oh no, I guess I haven't tried Brave. I'm sorry. Maybe I'll do that. I mean, it's a lot of birds. It doesn't sound like I mean, if you think if that's only 4% though, I mean, the size of that. The entire flock is huge. Anyways, they were destroyed after the infection. So get ready for egg prices to go skyrocketing. But the other news was that it had infected cows and it infected a human who died. In Texas. And, not the New York Times. Never the New York Times. A person tested positive for avian influenza after being exposed to cows. It's the second time a human has been infected with H5N1 in the U.S. This was yesterday. But I thought I had heard that this person died. So maybe I heard wrong. I don't know. This individual who's exposed to exposed to the cattle that were believed to be infected with the virus reported eye redness, a sign of conjunctivitis, but no other symptoms. The patient is being treated with antiviral medication and is recovering. Okay. So this avian flu has jumped to cattle. So it's ripping through farmed poultry, wild bird populations around the world in recent years. It's also infected mammalian species ranging from foxes, bears, and seals to cats and dogs. In recent weeks, infections have been found in cattle in 5 U.S. states: Kansas, Texas, Michigan, New Mexico, Idaho, and Minnesota. It says there's no evidence of human to human transmission so far. Well, what's this about somebody dying? What is this about somebody dying? Is that not true? It's interesting. I mean, that's an interesting wrinkle too, right? If they reported that somebody had died from this avian flu. Excuse me. Avian flu. Hold on. Okay, so someone was infected, but they did not. Why did I see that? Is this? Maybe this is a Twitter hijinks thing again. You guys are up on game. Thanks, chatters. You are wise. You are wise to the ways. Anyway, so that's happening. In other crazy weather news, well, there's a few. I think I showed some of this yesterday, but the tornadoes in Kentucky have been wreaking some havoc. Wreaking some havoc. Tornado damage to large homes in Louisville, Kentucky. Those poor people with those large homes and the swimming pools. How will they ever survive? I wonder. I'm not. I know that sounds kind of maybe not very nice. But what about the people with the small homes or the no homes? How did they fare in the tornado? I mean, it sucks. It sucks that people got hit by a tornado. But these people look really well to do, right? They're going to be rebuilding and collecting that insurance money in no time. Okay. There's also, where are we? We are in slow land. I'll try the Brave browser. Brave browser. But this is annoying. Yeah, Firefox actually does eat up just a terrible amount of my my computing power. It's a real energy hog. And I tend to have just a ton of tabs open all the time. I try not to, but it's kind of hard to not have all the tabs open. Darn it. I know I had something else here. Something in the extreme weather vicinity. Java, also with the floods. Yeah, that's what I'm finding out. Well, I don't know. I'll try. I'll try out something different for tomorrow. Roads and houses submerged due to floods in Cheng. I can't say it. East Java. And this video is very sad because all you hear is a woman crying in the background. Saudi Arabia still, again, with the floods. And again. Yeah, I feel like maybe something else is going on too. Maybe it's not just browser related. Okay. Thanks for all the suggestions, y'all. I appreciate you. This is Saudi Arabia. But we've been showing a lot of that. Yeah, I'm just going to have a hard time getting even half of these open. It's really not liking it today. Today is not the day for this. Okay. Well, let's look at this the bear facts, and then we'll cover some other things as well. It's already kind of getting late in the show here. Later in the show. Researchers raise concerns after observing catastrophic behavior of grizzly bears. Dramatic escalation in the number of bears dying. No, sir. We have grizzly bears being killed at probably 2 to 3 times the rate they were 20 years ago. Researchers have shed light on the changes in behavior that have led to grizzly bears closer and closer to human habitats, increasing the likelihood of dangerous interactions. What's happening? According to the 2021 documentary, The Beast of Our Time, grizzly bears are expanding their territories to new areas as a result of warming global temperatures, which has allowed the white pine beetle to thrive. Unfortunately, this tiny insect had a huge impact. Just wait. Leading white bark pine cone seeds, the primary food source for grizzly bears, to diminish in large numbers. This has caused grizzlies to travel farther for food and forces them to search for alternative sources of nutrition. As One Green Planet pointed out, grizzly bears haven't just changed their ranges because of this. Their hibernation patterns are altered as well. Of course they would be if the weather is altered. Unfortunately, this tiny insect had a huge impact, leading white bark pinecone seeds, and I'd read this. Bear-human interactions have been on the rise, often with devastating results for humans and grizzlies. In 2019, a mother and her infant in Canada were killed by a malnourished grizzly bear that was on the search for food prior to hibernation, as reported by CBS News. Several years later, per the Washington Post, another grizzly that had previously killed a hiker was euthanized after breaking into someone's house to look for food. That's sounds about right. This grizzly bear is hungry, and he's going to terrorize people for food until we kill him. Yeah. Tell me more about how we're so awesome. Grizzlies, which were protected as a threatened species, are an important part of keeping our ecosystem balanced and healthy. They are joining a list of other animals whose changing behavior patterns raise the alarm. We have grizzly bears being killed at probably 2 to 3 times the rate they were 20 years ago. Excuse me, which begs the question, why? Dave Matson, who has studied the bears for 35 years, said in a documentary, and that goes back to climate change, it's had a catastrophic effect on grizzly bears, or more specifically on bear-human relations. Some of what we've seen is a dramatic escalation in the number of bears dying because of conflicts over livestock and because of encounters with hunters. And they're telling you how they're fixing this problem. Okay. I don't know. Are we gonna? It is quite a deal. AARP for $1 a month. All right, I'm gonna stop right here and check in on comments or tips. That is. Sorry, the Rockfin stream. Well, the Rockfin stream died for me, but I hope it's still playing for you. Everyone on Rockfin. I hope you're... Hold on. I'm going to try and get it restarted here. Yeah. So there's several ways to support the show. You can send me a comment via Super Chat, Super Ray. You could buy me a coffee and send me a comment. I will read it aloud. You know how it works. You can also comment and tip via PayPal, Venmo, Cash App, Zelle. My God, So many options, my friends. Patreon, etc., etc., etc. I did get a super chat here on the YouTubers from North South. Thanks, North South. He says, thanks for your informing videos. Appreciate you, man. Excuse me. Let's see. It's also very, very slow. Yeah, I'm going to have to get another browser going, y'all. Or some other kind of situation, because this is just really bad. This is from Ashi's Joshi. I've never seen this person before on the Twitters, but Rockfin is groovy. Okay, cool. Yeah. If I'm just sitting here making weird sounds, it's because everything is moving slowly. So I apologize. It takes a lot of fossil fuels to build, maintain, and rebuild all that clean energy infrastructure, and electricity is just 20% of total energy consumption. And it's actually less than that. I think it's like 10%. There's no energy transition happening, only degrowth eventually, whether planned or forced upon us by nature. Yeah. He's responding to the Hausfather. The Hausfather. Hausfather. I don't think most people realize just how rapidly the transition towards clean energy is accelerating. The world invested $2.8 trillion in energy in 2023. $1.7 trillion in clean energy technologies, $1.1 trillion in fossil fuels. Well, surely all of that money is going to make it better. It's going to make the world. I know. Zeke, I appreciate you. Appreciate your efforts, Zeke Hausfather. Appreciate your efforts. Again, some people don't want to think, don't want to believe in physics, because actually believing in physics might make them feel a little uncomfortable to the point that they don't want to feel that dis-ease, the ease. Feel that disease? All right. But Zeke Hausfather is always one for a lot of optimism. And again, sure there can be solutions if people actually understand what the problem is and are willing to, have, I don't know, intelligent conversations around it. But there's, that's a big battle line. That is a big battle line, right? Because people, don't want to come to grips with, the climate change issue is a real hard one for people. People really want to believe that there's a solution or a way out. And I totally understand that impulse. I get it. I want to believe. I mean, hell, I want deniers to be right, or deniers and or eternal optimists of the world. I want them to be right. I'm pretty optimistic. I consider myself a pretty optimistic type dude, but I also consider myself something of a realist. And I would love, if somebody could prove to me that this is all made up, that somebody just fudged the numbers in a back room somewhere 30 years ago and all of this is fake. If you can prove to me, that doesn't mean like, one dude saying something, see, he's right. He's right. Okay, that's not enough. It's not enough. If somebody could, I mean, I would be overjoyed. I would be happy. I'd be so happy. I'd be a skipping down the street. I'd be a skipping and a jumping for joy. If somebody could tell me, that no, no, this isn't really happening. Everything is fine. It's all going to be good and glorious. But I mean, there are people that have to keep that frame of mind in order to function. And that's a human thing. It's a human thing. So. It'd be great. Roger Hallam has this for us. How you doing, Twitter people? I see you watching on Twitter. I see you. You can't hide. All right. All right. So get this, the world's coral reefs disappear at 1.5 C. At 1.5 C. Hope we avoid it. Do you like that one? Hope we avoid the guardrail of 1.5. Anyways, Roger Hallam is at least operating in reality when he says we are past 1.5 C. Now and heading for 2 C. They are done, he says. The point is not, oh my God, all those lovely, colorful things we see on David Attenborough are going to go away. No, the point is 25% of the world's fish will disappear as well. No, the point is 1.2 billion people depend on those fish. Hundreds of millions of people will starve. You're right. It could just be only tens of millions. So that's okay then. No problem. I mean, I don't. Maybe there'll be something to be said for. Maybe there'll be something to be said for lab grown food, or some kind of Blade Runner food source. When all the plants are gone and that we can't farm, we don't farm normally anymore. We farm some kind of weird, human concocted goo that feeds everybody on the planet. Maybe that will be our greatest. Let's check this out from Jen Bendel. We're going to end the show right around here. What's Jim talking about? What's Gemma talking about? He says, so you know things are going to poop, but have a boss to please and bills to pay. So what do you do? I wrote up some thoughts after my first lecture as a barefoot professor, have retired and gone emeritus last year. All right, let's check this out. Well, yeah, I mean, you got to pay bills, right? Even though it's the end of it's the end times, right? It's not, but they still send you the bills and they still ask you to pay money to keep the lights on and stuff. You still gotta go to the store and buy some food. You still gotta pay the rent. You know? So what do you do? What do you do? I mean, that's why I think it's a little, weird to purity test people around this kind of thing. People are living their lives, man. Every one of us is living our lives, right? Trying to pay the bills and keep going. And we're all, kind of stuck in this system on some level. And you got to do things to appease the man. Keeping your job at the end of the world as we know it is from today. In an era of constant disruption and even collapse, are there any ways back to feeling at peace or even happy about one's current employment? Many people I meet express unease because their job feels like a distraction from an environment and society that is beginning to break around us. For some, their employer is even making matters worse, although it is painful to pay attention to a world in crisis and collapse. The pain is clearly made worse by living out of step with that awareness. Yes. Right? Having to keep this system going and be a cog or a component in the system. Even though the system is the thing that's the issue, right? So there is a bit of cognitive, or a lot, not a bit. There's a lot of cognitive dissonance in keeping ourselves and everything going, knowing that you're contributing to the decline yourself with your own complicity in it. That's a tough one. For many people, conforming to the preoccupations and performances of their profession now means living a lie. But feeling out of integrity with who we are and what we know to be unfolding would not be our fault. It's the result of being trapped in a system and culture that is dying, stuck in such a way. People are losing crucial time to discover how they might live in greater integrity with their values in this new era. Meanwhile, others are quitting their old work to go wild with entirely new ways of using their time on this glorious earth. As I've described before, but many people, perhaps like you, will have responsibilities they want to maintain, at least for now, which requires keeping their current income. Do you think it reasonable to find a way of earning a living without lying to yourself and others? I do, because it should not be too much to ask that we can meet each other with greater honesty in our professional lives. In this essay, I want to tell you about the variety of ways I have learned that people are integrating their collapse awareness into their lives while continuing with their existing employment. I hope it might help you make or affirm your own decisions. I've met enough people discussing deep adaptation over the last 5 years to know that the truth can set us free from the pain of pretending. There are options if we need to keep working in the same job or sector for now. In a previous post, I described the new openness in some organizations to begin discussing how to better prepare staff, stakeholders, and their organizations for a new era of polycrisis due to the process of collapse. To support such discussions, I offered an 8-step approach to deep adaptation in organizations, but most people don't have roles in organizational development and won't be working in an organization that has an enlightened leadership or possibilities for significant change. With that in mind, I reflected on the other ways I know collapse-aware people have been responding when not quitting their job or career altogether. What follows is a summary of what I've learned. Keep serving, reveal and recommit in post. Some jobs are vocational and feel meaningful. People don't go into the fire service, nursing, social work, or teaching for the money. Many of my friends are musicians, and their belief in the joy and power of music motivates them despite an erratic income. There is value in all of them continuing to do what they do. As they become aware that their life might be shorter and situations more difficult than they had imagined, it can require courage to keep going. For instance, one man will keep teaching his philosophy classes in San Francisco, despite being convinced it will be a tough place to live as societal disruptions unfold. He told me he wants to be there to help with emotional aspect of the disruptions. One woman I know came to the realization of our predicament while studying to be a nurse. She decided to complete her studies and practice, while telling people that she felt her training would be important as society became more unsettled. Allowing oneself to experience the harrowing feelings about how societal disruption and collapse will manifest over time is important to establish the depth of one's recommitment and therefore one's sense of integrity for remaining in one's job or vocation. Deciding to reveal one's perspective to colleagues and how that outlook on the future is part of one's motivation is a courageous and helpful act. It helps to normalize discussion of the situation. Revealing and recommitting in post in this way is possible if you believe in the usefulness of your work, but if you don't, then here are a couple of other approaches I've learned about. Quit quietly. Quiet quitting is a term being used to refer to people who are doing the minimum requirements of their job and putting in no more time, effort, or enthusiasm than necessary. Taking it easy that way can mean you save energy for more important things and perhaps even engage with them during work hours. The polling company Gallup found that about 50% of the current workforce in the USA now claims to have quit or retired in post in this way. In my own experience, I know many people who convey this attitude to their work. For instance, I know someone at the United Nations who is passionate about his work on corporate sustainability, but is now focusing more on his home life and a future farm. Corporate sustainability being the one of the largest of oxymorons, right? There's no. If you want your corporation to be sustainable, you would encourage your corporation to dissolve itself, take your profits, and go away, go somewhere. That's the only way. The only way you're going to be sustainable. The only way. Anyways. So, corporations sitting around talking about being sustainable is a big fat joke. Don't do it. Don't engage in it. Don't give it any energy. Some of the quiet quitting might be indicative of a widening loss of commitment to society due to an apparent ending of the social contract that promised a reasonable standard of living from being employed. That is an aspect of the uncementing I describe in detail in Chapter 7 of Breaking Together. Quiet quitting can be an unfulfilling experience where apathy and meaninglessness pervades the hours that one is meant to be working. Rather than existing in that kind of limbo, you could make such quiet quitting a deliberate act to enable yourself to better prepare for difficult times ahead. Being clear about your decision, you can then explore how to deploy the time and energy you are saving. For instance, I know people who are using their working hours to retrain in useful ways or to trade crypto. I know others who make sure they don't stress or exhaust themselves and leave for home bang on time to participate in climate activism. As someone who for decades advocated corporate leadership on social and environmental issues with a win-win business benefit that encouraged more motivation and creativity from employees, It is quite strange to find myself now recommending people intentionally retire in post. I remarked on this personal reversal during my first public lecture since retiring from my full professorship last year. Perhaps I felt freer of the expectation and limitations of that role. My lecture was in a business school, a form of education that has grown around the world over recent decades and an indicator of how higher education has become ever more tied to serving capital. But what I said during that lecture went far further in breaking with that ideology. Sabotage nonviolently. Rebel in post. Some jobs are in companies that particularly damage the environment or society. The most obvious ones are some fossil fuel companies and financial institutions. If you are collapse aware and work in such sectors, is working less hard good enough? Probably not. Instead, you could consider rebelling in post through nonviolent sabotage. Sabotage is being discussed more openly in the last couple of years. Since Swedish lecturer Andreas Malm wrote a book titled How to Blow Up a Pipeline, Learning to Fight in a World on Fire. He argued industrial sabotage is a valid tactic for climate activism. The desperation some activists are feeling might lead them in that direction. However, far from being more radical or effective, violence from environmentalists would invite further governmental and police crackdowns on peaceful protests and radical commentary. Well, doesn't really seem to matter whether it's nonviolent or not. You still get carried. Like, look at Cop City, right? What some glorifiers of violent protests ignore is the history of commercial or industrial sabotage. The practice is defined by management theorists as any deliberate action or inaction that is intended to damage, destroy, or disrupt some aspects of the workplace environment, including the property, product, processes, or reputation of the organization. They explain that. In contrast to the image of the mad saboteur, careful review of existing research leads to the conclusion that most acts of sabotage are highly symbolic, are restrained and selective, are the product of collective or even conspiratorial efforts, and are performed with technical sophistication. They tend to be deliberate and calculated rather than impulsive and careless. Talking with boomers who had experience of industrial disputes, I have heard of several cases where such sabotage by employee was suspected by management, and it increased the internal pressure to resolve disputes. One of the most famous examples of the internal sabotage of operations was featured in the award-winning film Schindler's List. It reviewed the story of Oskar Schindler, who used his armament factory in Nazi Germany to save Jewish people from concentration camps. The Brunlitz factory produced no usable armaments of its own, a strategy aimed at hastening the war's end. I had this in mind when I gave a speech for Extinction Rebellion in 2019 outside the gate of the fracking company Quadrilla in the UK. There I met activist grandmas who kept vigil outside those gates and called on staff to abandon their work, somewhat like a picket line. In my talk, I acknowledged that some staff can't quit as they have bills to pay and few other job opportunities. Therefore, I called on the crowd to consider suggesting to anyone they know working in the company to commit subtle acts of sabotage. Employees might delete a database or enter the wrong data. Perhaps they might accidentally pay far too much to a supplier. After all, if people on the inside are aligned with a cause, there is no need to blow up a pipeline, as you can just order the wrong one. With awareness of the causes of social disruption and collapse spreading, radical criticism of some companies will soon be everywhere, and the possibilities for commercial sabotage may increase. The law on commercial sabotage differs amongst countries, with recent legislative moves in UK and elsewhere to criminalize it more clearly within the framework of national security. Therefore, anyone considering such an approach for restoring their personal integrity would need to accept the risks they might expose themselves to. Likewise, any activist organization interested in this approach might prefer bringing attention to it as having a place in the history of social struggles rather than calling for sabotage explicitly. A recognition of the validity of commercial sabotage was not something I had imagined would feature in one of my lectures at a business school. Fortunately, I had something more business-like to offer as my final option for people to return to integrity while keeping their job. a refocusing in post on the need and opportunity for deep adaptation, as I will mention briefly before closing. Repurpose your job, refocus in post. Perhaps it's because of the crazy ocean temperatures and weather extremes, or the crises that keep piling up on each other. Whatever the reason, more experts and consultants in the fields of corporate sustainability and organizational development are speaking publicly about the likelihood of societal collapse. This opens the possibility to work on the deep adaptation agenda within organizations. As our employers are such major coordinators of resources and people, if they could play a role in reducing harm from future societal disruptions and collapse, then that is important to explore. That is why I developed a set of suggestions for how to address deep adaptation in organizations and summarized it in a previous essay. To refocus in post involves a deep shift in how one imagines and communicates the relationship between an individual and an organization. The well-being of employees, our families, and communities needs to become the primary concern as we explore how to adapt organizational activities in an unsettled future. I will be discussing the 8 steps for deep adaptation in organizations at events that bring together corporate executives and investment professionals. I think it remains unlikely that many organizations, especially in the private sector, will help their staff prepare practically and psychologically for massive disruptions to their lives, but it is nevertheless worth trying. That's why I always welcome executives on the Leading Through Collapse course I teach a few times a year. With every cohort, I learn more about how different sectors can play a useful role in building collapse readiness. For instance, past participants have written books on the role of museums and the role of teachers in deep adaptation. Don't delay. If you aren't convinced that modern societies are unraveling in ways that cannot be stopped, then you are not likely to recommit, retire, rebel, or refocus in your current post. It is even less likely that you would quit altogether and start something new. Therefore, the most important step is to make time to explore this topic and become confident in your understanding of the situation. To help with this was my motivation for writing the first half of Breaking Together. For years, I had not made time to explore the situation and allow the reality to affect me deeply. So for years, I lived in limbo. One of the things that holds a professional class back from making radical decisions is the assumption that most of us are already well informed. Instead, research has found that what's more important is how domesticated we are through our levels of education. That is because we have worked hard to succeed within the current system and have a subtle yet deep allegiance to the status quo. Oh, that's key. That makes us more resistant to recognizing the end of that status quo and therefore the end of our previous comforts, privilege, and status. Although I presented a few options for what can be done while keeping one's salary, for now I continue to believe that entering an era of collapse makes bold decisions the least risky. The least risky. In chapter 12 of my book, I mentioned many people who ditched their past work and reinvested themselves due to their collapse awareness. In a recent essay, I described this going wild as the process of becoming someone who has integrated their sense of doom into living kindly, wisely, and creatively, a doomster way of life. In my case, I walked away from academia to set up an organic farm school and to begin writing and releasing songs. My recent experience means that when I meet people in their 20s, I can't encourage a typical career path and instead recommend finding ways to escape the normal expectations and restrictions. Beauty. Sorry if nobody's seeing this. Or recommend people never to join the military. Or recommend people never to work. I've met people that have graduated from college and said they were going to go work for DuPont or Bayer or something. I was like, so really? That's what you're going to do? This is years ago, though. You have to know that whatever you're going to do is going to be evil. Used for evil. Backed by evil money. You're not going to do something that's going to be beneficial to the planet if you're working for one of those companies. Sorry to tell you that. No matter how much you want to delude yourself. Um, although it is not going to stop being painful to add to that pain by living a lie. It's still in our power to know that we didn't bullshit ourselves and each other as we face the final curtain. How final, we will never know. So let's give each other permission to live in truth in our working lives as well as our personal lives, then see what happens. All right. Good stuff from Jem Bendel. And one last of the super chats and super rays here. Y'all's, coffees, PayPals, etc. Y'all's. All right. Okay. Thanks for hanging out with me, guys. Appreciate you. Yeah, rock. And I will see you all tomorrow at the regular time of 11 a.m. Pacific. And until next time, peace.